Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is yet another random questions tag. Now, this tag was created by James Holder, and I saw this one on, was it Bookends and Books? I saw this one there, started to make its rounds, and this looked like an easy tag to do and a quick one, so figured give it a shot as well. I haven't looked through these questions too much, but I think based on the other video that I had seen of this, and I'll have a link to that one down below, I figured I'd be able to answer these, I think, without too much difficulty. So let's begin. Number one, what is a book you don't want to admit you hate or dislike? I don't know about don't want to admit it, but there are certainly some more revered works that are held in high esteem by some that I just didn't get on with. One of them I would say Jack Kerouac's On the Road. I kind of wanted to like that one quite a bit, but it felt really like it felt like the draft of a novel that had to be improved upon still. Just didn't quite get on with that one. I understand its historical importance. I'm not knocking that, and in the context in which it was created. I understand all that stuff. It just didn't do anything for me. Another one, this is one that I had read for BookTube that people seem to love. They adored it, and I felt like I was the only one that just didn't really like this book that much. And that is Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. The prose was beautiful. Waugh was certainly a beautiful writer. I just didn't get on with the story. I didn't like the characters, and you don't have to like characters to like a book, but it's one of those situations where it's hard to put into words, but when you're reading something and an event happens, you kind of create maybe lessons learned from that event. That's what they should really be learning from this when something such and such a thing happens. And I kept thinking with Waugh was really coming to very different conclusions for what was proper, what was a logical outcome. I know I'm not being entirely clear on this, and this was 2 years ago that I read it, so it's not entirely fresh in my mind. But I just didn't get along with Waugh and the characters he created, and I wasn't feeling the sort of sympathy that I think I was supposed to be feeling for these people. So anyway, I know that that's a beloved classic, and people on BookTube were fawning over it and adoring it, but it's just not one that I really like particularly. Number two, are there authors whose work you haven't gotten on with that you want to revisit? Now, this one I think is more controversial, but this is one I do want to revisit. I'm just not that interested in Waugh at this point, but my answer to this question would be Ray Bradbury. I know that Ray Bradbury is loved, and he is certainly loved by people whose opinions I really respect. And the thing about Ray Bradbury is I think he has excellent ideas. I love his ideas. I've read a lot of short stories by Ray Bradbury, and I've read 2 of the novels. I read Fahrenheit 451, which, again, cool premise there, but the resolution, the ending, I didn't get on with it necessarily. It's a lot of times it's Bradbury's execution that I don't get on with. I'm not a big fan of his writing. Some people tend to love his writing. They love his prose, and I didn't quite get it. Another one that I read was Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is such an awesome title for a book. And a cool premise, once again. But there was weird prose in there. I remember one line, it was like, the man was cold as an albino frog. And I'm like, are albino frogs colder than regular frogs? I don't quite get some of his descriptions. They take me out of it rather than pull me in. I have a hard time getting immersed in his writing. Again, cool ideas. I'm not crazy about the execution. But I'm willing to give him another try. I'm willing to keep giving him tries. I haven't read too much of his science fiction yet, so definitely want to give that a try. So I will go back to Ray Bradbury. And I don't dislike Ray Bradbury. It's just he hasn't grabbed me yet and made me want to keep going necessarily, although I do have respect for him. Number 3, is your TBR outlined or pantsed? So, interesting way to put it. I'd say outlined. I am not much of a mood reader. Sometimes mood does come into play, depending on what choice I'm making, but for the most part, my TBR is pretty well planned. I'm more strategic about it. I'd like to know ahead of time what books I'm planning to get to and when. So yeah, I'm not too much of a mood reader. It's pretty outlined. 4, what is your favorite BookTube reading event? My favorite one is probably Saga Long. Every April, a group of co-hosts end up choosing a new or another Icelandic saga to read together and to discuss. And I love the Icelandic sagas. I love Norse culture, even though they were written after the Viking Age, but still, it's writing about that age by their descendants. And I just love knowing that I'm going to be able to dedicate a month just to basically immerse myself in that world again. And I couple it along. I did it last year by reading a Children of Ash and Elm by Neil Price, and I plan to do it again this year to read a bunch of Viking history nonfiction books to go along with that. So that's probably my favorite. Another one that I always kind of get excited about too is maybe Midrash, because I do have a lot of like religious history texts and books about religion, philosophy books and that kind of thing that just don't make it into my TBR all that often. And that's another thing. It's another excuse for me to kind of get into those. So I usually look forward to that quite a bit as well. And of course, I'm not counting the BookTube reading events that I create or that I am running. So I'm not counting Book Trek. I'm not counting Historathon 2023. Even though, yes, those are certainly favorites of mine. But, the ones that I like participating in that I have nothing to do with creating or running, those are the ones. But especially Saga Long. I really look forward to Saga Long. And I think they just started announcing which books it was going to be. So if you're interested in Icelandic sagas, definitely be on the lookout for that. Number 5, how many works does it take to decide if you like or dislike an author's work? I'd say at least 2, I guess. Like, I could eventually give Wa another try, and maybe I'd love another book, but I think you gotta at least read 2 to really know if you dislike the person. Everybody has an off day. Everybody can have an off book. But yeah, I think 2's fair. 6, which of the 7 deadly sins do you experience the most? That's confession time, I guess. It's difficult to say. It's weird because it has to do with partly your perception, and then there's reality. Like, I can sometimes consider myself a lazy person, like I'm slothful, but that's only because I don't have like a regular like exercise routine. I'm not like out like running around all the time, or I'm not lifting weights all the time. But I mean, I take walks and I'm active, but I'm not mentally lazy. Like, I have a lot of pokers in the fire, or wherever that saying goes. I got a lot of stuff that I do. I work full time. I'm a teacher. I have kids that I'm constantly attending to. I grocery shop. I cook. I do all the laundry in the house. Just taking care of things around the house normally. I'm a husband, so I gotta do husband things as well. I have all those basic responsibilities that pretty much everybody else, many other people have those as well. But in addition, I make BookTube videos. I'm always carving out time to read whenever I can. I co-host a horror movie discussion podcast, so I'm always carving out time to, watch horror movies. I'm learning Latin in my whatever spare time I still have, doing language lessons, and I'm probably going to add more things to that. I have a lot of different interests and hobbies, so in that respect, I'm certainly not slothful. I'm not lazy, so it's kind of difficult to talk about perception, and I guess I can say gluttony, but that's not all the time. Oftentimes, every day, I almost never eat breakfast. I have I usually either eat lunch or dinner. But I would say gluttony sometimes, because if it's really good food, I might overindulge. That certainly happens sometimes, but I don't eat all the time, and I'm not a snacker. I'm not somebody who has a big sweet tooth at all. So I don't know. There's perception versus reality. I could certainly exercise more, and I could certainly watch what I eat better. So we'll go with those. 7, which of the Olympian gods is your favorite? It's been a long time since I've read Greek mythology. I would say Hephaestus is definitely one. First of all, was he disabled or else deformed or something? He had like a lameness about him or something. I know that he wasn't physically perfect like the other Olympian gods tend to be. And yet he was married to Aphrodite for a while, so good for him. But he's also the god of like metalworking, so he gave human beings that skill, but also like, I'm a big sword person. I still have a Xyphos next to me, so thanks to Hephaestus, the Greeks were able to make something like this. Maybe not exactly like this, but pretty similar. Um, yeah, I would also say maybe somebody like Hades. I mean, God of the Underworld, a horror fan. It's pretty awesome. He walks around with a three-headed dog. How cool is that? Yeah, of course, Prometheus. He gave us fire. You gotta love Prometheus. Next, what is your go-to special event meal? It's difficult. I don't exactly know what James means by this, but I'm thinking when people come over my house, what do I usually make? I usually make tacos. Make a big thing of taco meat and then let people kind of serve themselves with a topping. So tacos are my go-to. Hey, we're gonna have a party. Let's see. Do you attend local celebrations, fairs, festivals, markets, etc.? Yeah, especially in the fall. New England has a lot of great fall festivals. You can go, apple cider donuts, apple orchards will sometimes have festivals, harvest festivals, and near us there's a garlic festival, which is fun. If you like garlic, lots of garlic food, even garlic ice cream, which is really gross, but a lot of the other stuff is really good. Local concerts, free concerts on either the village green or in parks. There's an annual pickin' and fiddlin' event that we love to go to. It's basically a bluegrass festival contest where people compete by playing banjos and fiddles and stuff like that. And that's always great to just kind of sit back and have some beers and some snacks and just listen to music, live music for that. Library book fairs we like to go to. And this isn't super local. It's over an hour drive, but we love going to the, at least once a year, we go to the New York Renaissance Festival and have a good old geeky time there. Number 10, do you prefer the city, suburbs, small towns, or the country? I live in a small town and I prefer small towns. I like the privacy of a small town, you're still close to nature, but you're not so far away from a grocery store. You don't have to drive like 45 minutes just to get some, milk. I like having the amenities nearby. That's great. Small towns have the basics that you would need, but you still have that, a sense of community and also, again, very close to nature there. But I want a small town that has easy access to a city. So, I'm not too far away from New York City. I can get there within, if I drive to a train station, the train ride is a little over an hour. So it's, it's not like I get to New York City immediately, but I love to be within a day's, it's a day trip that I can make to go to New York City and see the museums and stuff like that. So that's ideal for me, a small town that's near a cool city. Excuse me. Number 11, are there any BookTube videos you have a hard time making? I guess so. I never feel comfortable recommending things to people. I just don't know what people's tastes are, and I don't presume to know their tastes, and whether or not our tastes will align. So I don't really like making recommendation videos. Tag videos that rely heavily on fiction, reading of fiction, because I'm not a huge fiction reader. So I have a hard time with those. And really any kind of video that requires a regular schedule. I'm not good with keeping schedules. That's why I don't call my videos Friday reads or weekly reads or anything like that, because I might not do it every week. I call them Fresh Read Kills, and that's named after a poem I wrote a long time ago. It's just kind of whenever I get around to it, that sort of thing. 12, are you interested in local history? Yes, I am. Our town, one of the people that used to live here at one point was Roger Sherman, one of the founding fathers. He was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, also part of the committee that wrote it, signer of the Articles of Confederation, signer of the Constitution. He's what came up with the Connecticut Compromise, so the way our House and the House of Representatives and the Senate is organized is due to him. So yeah, cool figure. We've had some celebrities live in our town, and it's just I enjoy local history. I love, especially walking through old cemeteries, seeing the familiar names and how they match up with street signs. You can figure out where the families lived. You can see the different inscriptions and the family plots and the wars that people died in, and it's just I love seeing that image come together when you're looking at these old gravestones, which are really just, public folk art a lot of ways. Yeah, I don't think that people explore their local cemeteries enough. I think they're often seen as something to stay out of, but no, I think they're meant to be visited and appreciated. And yeah, I'm sure that if anybody's conscious underneath there, they probably appreciate some company. Let me see. Number 13. What subjects were your favorite in school? Well, history. I loved history. That's probably no surprise if anybody watches my channel. I also just like the humanities. I took a creative writing course. I took humanities courses, examining literature and the intersection of literature and social studies. I took a Shakespeare course. That was a lot of fun. So, yeah, just all through high school and all that stuff I really enjoyed. 14, if you go back in time and change one thing in your life, what would it be? That's a tough one. I guess speaking of school, I would try harder in school. I wasn't very studious. I guess I was a smart student, so I tested well and I got A's on essays, but I was never good at doing homework. I never took that stuff seriously. I ended up being the first person in my family to go to college, so it's not that my family wasn't supportive of school, but they didn't really know how to impart, a studious nature upon me. They didn't know, what to do with that sort of thing. Just if I got bad grades, they would basically, do better. And then my freshman year of college, I definitely would have tried harder. After that, because that was a rocky first year. And that was part of me maturing and getting things, straight. But then after that, I was basically straight A's. But yeah, I would have gotten more of a head start when it came to being more studious. And 15, this is the last one. Are there any childhood entertainments that you still engage in? Childhood entertainments, it's difficult to say. I guess so, yeah. I watched horror movies as a kid. I still watch them. So yes, on that. I read books as a kid and I still watch them. Or sorry, I still read them. I read comic books as a kid and occasionally I still pick up a comic book. I don't buy them all the time, but I do like reading them occasionally. When I was a kid, I used to pick up sticks all the time, pretend they're swords, and now I can just pick up real swords. That's kind of the same thing. But yeah, I think that's probably just about as far as it goes with some of the childhood stuff, at least off the top of my head that I can think of. And the last thing is tag people. I'm going to tag Mark over at Book Time with Elvis. I think he might have some fun answers for this. So, Mark, if you feel like doing this, you're more than welcome to. But anyway, thanks to James for creating this. And as always, thank you, BookTube.